Welcome to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know the faces, stories, and lives that make up our community. I'm Ryan Harding, and I started this podcast as a way for us all to connect with the people we live alongside. Growing up in a small town, I learned that connections go beyond blood. They're built through shared experiences, friendships, and the moments we celebrate together. Each week, we'll sit down with someone new from Lehi to share their unique story, their passions, and what they love most about living here. So whether you've been here for years or just arrived, join us as we deepen our roots and reach out to our branches one story at a time. Welcome, Chris Condie, to Roots and Branches of Lehi. Happy to have you here on the podcast. So,
yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's good to be here.
Glad you're here. Yes, it's good to get to know you for a little bit. And so you've been in Lehi since 2007. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
My family and I, my wife, we had a little girl. We moved here from Michigan.
Okay.
We were looking to come out west.
Yeah.
Because we had family out here. And
Yeah.
So I had a job opportunity that came up.
Yeah.
And brought me to Utah.
Okay.
And
been here ever since.
Been here ever since.
Yeah. And tell me, what job was it? What do you do for work?
So I'm in IT and information technology and security.
Okay.
And so I came out to be an IT manager for a software company.
Okay.
And I've been in that industry now for, I hate to say, but 28 years.
Good amount of time.
Yeah.
I know time keeps going by, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting old. I'm kind of the old one on some of these things and stuff like that. So but hey, it's okay. My actually, just side note, my 80-year-old aunt was, she just got put into primary. She's like, it's my 5th time being in primary, as a primary presidency and stuff. I thought that was kind of funny. So,
yep.
So I mean, yeah, the older you get, the more things you get to experience and stuff.
Exactly.
So obviously, from Michigan and stuff like that, but so not been in Lehi for a long time. How has Lehi shaped you, I guess, just, being here and stuff like that? So.
Yeah. So when we first moved here, my daughter, she was two and a half years old.
Sure.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I have a son from a previous marriage, and he lived in Colorado, so that was one of the attractions too. We have
Be closer, sure.
We have parents and siblings and stuff that live here in Utah, but
Yeah.
then I was that much closer to my son, so I could see
Sure.
him more.
Yeah.
And one of the things is the dynamic with my son living in different states, and then my daughter knowing that she was going to start elementary school and things like that.
Yeah.
Service has always been important to me.
Yeah.
And as I got into and started serving, whether in my neighborhood or at the schools, whatever it was, I just noticed the people I interacted with, my neighbors and people in the community, were very service oriented.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you may not see that on social media, or you may not see it, but when you get involved and you start to be involved, you start to see how people are really wanting to serve and just help each other and things like that. So that's how I think that's how it's molded me, is that I've had this desire to want to serve and be involved in the community my kids are involved in.
Yeah.
And then just having the opportunity to work with other people in the community. And things like that.
So is that kind of what got you started in public office, I guess? Doing that is just kind of this desire to serve and stuff?
Desire to serve.
Yeah.
My mom, when growing up, so I was born in 74. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And my mom was big into politics in the sense that she talked a lot about, and she went out and she gave her time and things like that.
Sure.
We talk a lot about politics. And so it's something that throughout my life, as I went to high school and the college and things, I just kind of thought, that if there was an opportunity, I would try to
do it. Sure. Yeah.
Serve in this way. And
Yeah.
So.
And what was the first public office you held then, I guess? What did you do first go into?
So it was the city council. So when I first ran back in 2011, I didn't make it through the primary.
Yeah.
But I got appointed by the mayor then and the council at that time on the planning commission.
Okay.
And then I served there for 2 years.
Okay.
I ran again, and then that's when I got elected.
Okay.
And so prior to that, though, what I was doing is I was on school community councils for both Snow Springs and River Rock.
Okay.
I've done the HOA thing a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then other things, other church responsibilities.
Sure.
Or things for my job.
Sure.
With groups that my company is associated with and things, just trying to be more about participating and getting myself out there and not talking about it, but trying to do something about it as well.
Did you have early mentors or people that kind of inspired you kind of go that way? I mean, you mentioned your mom, and maybe that, I mean, is that just any others that I guess?
Yeah, so I just, one of the things I liked is that, so my parents obviously, but I've had leaders, I've had teachers, I've had even coworkers.
Sure.
Who, just interacting with people and when you're talking about quote unquote politics, right? It seemed that the more that I realized that, hey, to me, politics isn't just about an issue on certain policies and things. It's about actually serving someone.
Yeah.
And so as I would do that and interact with people, they would see that ability and be like, hey, that's, I think it's great that you're looking to do that at some point, right? That kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I always would talk about it and be open about it, but it wasn't until I got here and we kind of decided, we're kind of building our roots here in Lehi.
Yeah.
So felt like this is where that would be that opportunity to try to do it.
Yeah. So you've been on the Lehi City Council for a while now,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yep.
So tell me some of the things that you're, I guess most proud of, I guess, from that time of serving. What?
So there's several like little things, and then there's several big things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really enjoy on the council is, I've been a member of it where I've had different interactions with different people as they come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's little things like in the beginning of my career, we started streaming, and I collaborated with my fellow council members and brought it, and said, hey, let's work together and see if we can stream this. And whether a lot of people do it or not,
sure,
let's make it available so it's an option, right?
Yeah, love that.
To bringing up the idea of let's talk with fiber and let's see if we can bring fiber to Lehi.
Yeah.
And then the other part is the thing I've really enjoyed is working with either scout groups or going into schools and classrooms and being able just to talk about local government and answer questions and be involved in youth council, the youth council here for Lehi City, and just interacting with the youth and seeing that, hey, there really is a drive there. They want to be a part of the community. They have a voice.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think I've been most proud of is interacting with the youth.
Sure.
And just being able to build a connection with them
Yeah.
and show them that, hey, whether it's public office or a career, there's lots of wonderful careers in local government and whatnot, from engineering to planning to parks and open space, just giving them an idea that, hey, there's wonderful career opportunities in public sector as well as private.
Yeah. And so Lehi has changed quite a bit over the last, 12 years, right?
It has.
So it's grown a lot. Tell me, some of the things that have changed, I guess, for you from when you first started on the council to kind of where you're at now and stuff like that. Tell me some of those changes.
It's interesting. So the first year I lived here, we lived in Traverse Mountain.
Okay.
And we lived there for 1 year, and then we built a home over here on the west end of Lehi off Main Street in Jordan Willows.
Okay.
And I remember when we moved over here, you had 2300 West, but 2300 West stopped, I believe, at 3rd North, and then you couldn't pick up on it again until 9th North.
Yeah.
So you'd have to cut over to 2375 West or something like that, and
Yeah.
you'd have to zigzag your way up. And then it didn't go under the railroad and things like that. So early on, seeing 2300 West get connected and then have a bridge or have it go under the railroad and be able to connect up to the north end.
Yeah.
That was early on. That was a big deal that time, right? But then it was, hey, we need I-15 widened, and the state is really struggling to want to do it because they're going to have to bond.
Yeah.
And working with with the mayor and the fellow council members and staff to get the state to bump that timeline up so that we could get I-15 widened sooner was a great experience, because it's working with state legislators, state agencies, as well as our fellow council and sister cities.
Yeah.
The fiber coming in now and seeing that we're in the 3rd year and we're close to having the initial project completed and knowing that everyone has the option to get fiber to their home now is something I'm really proud of and excited that we as a council worked together on and collaborated on. And the bigger part is that the city owns the infrastructure.
Okay.
It's not owned by some third party or private entity, but we, the people here in Lehi, we own the infrastructure. And so we get to kind of have control of that in certain ways that I think is very beneficial.
Does that mean, kind of any kind of income from it? Or I guess, you tell me why that matters, I guess, the fact that,
So first of, When we go to pay off the bond, we can determine what revenue is to pay that off. And what we've done is we're using the take rate or the number of subscribers that come on, and we're taking the profit or the revenue that we earn from that, and that's what we're using to pay the bond off. So it's not a tax increase on everyone.
Okay.
It's not a fee that everyone has to pay. It's only those that are using, right? So it's kind of pay to play.
Sure.
And which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
If you choose to do some other service and whatnot, then you shouldn't be responsible for that fiber.
Sure.
But it also allows us to control who's going to help us manage the back end infrastructure of it.
Okay.
And we own that, the routers, the switches, the actual fiber in the ground.
Yeah.
All that's owned by Lehi City. So it's not a third party that can come in and say, well, we're going to do this or make this change or do that and cause a disruption of service or anything. It's all Lehi City that we control who helps us to manage it.
Yeah.
And then we get to work with them on who the ISPs are that get to join the network and offer service and things like that. So yeah.
I guess, and there's obviously advantage to that. So, I mean, similar to Lehi City is one of the few that has their own utility company too, right? You know, and I guess obviously there's benefits to that too, right?
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
So,
and one of the things, just to piggyback off that I'm really proud of supporting with my fellow council members is what we call internal power generation at the power department.
Yeah.
We now have 8 or 9 large natural gas generators.
Okay.
Huge. I mean, they're the size. Some of them are the size of almost a school bus. They're just big.
That's
But what that allows us to do is it allows us, as energy rates start to spike, especially like right now during a really hot summer, we can start generating our own power and help kind of help that spike not go so high.
Sure.
And so it helps us to keep the rates down. And something I'm really proud of in Lehi and proud of our power department is we pay a lower rate per, I think it's kilowatt per hour, than most people in Utah do. We're still I think we're at like 9 cents a kilowatt per hour. So, or something, or per minute, whatever it is. But the rate that we have is much lower. And there's been a lot of fluctuation in the last couple of years in power, as you can imagine. And now you hear at a national level, what's the big investment into it? It's into power plants.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of need right now.
AI and data centers, right? And they're huge power consumers.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see that benefit that we have to kind of market provide our own power.
Sure. Obviously, that's something. Yes, thank you. Previous people that started that, I guess, a long time ago, right? We're enjoying the fruits of some of that labor, right?
Well, and real quick, one of the fruits from that is that back early on in Lehi, they had the idea to run parallel conduit. So conduit that they would run the power line through, and then they put empty conduit because they thought, well, maybe there'll be something in the future that they might use that for. And lo and behold, we're putting fiber in, and so wherever that conduit's still viable, we're using that to put our fiber in.
Oh, wow.
And so instead of having to put conduit everywhere throughout the whole city, someone had the idea, hey, let's run an extra conduit line next to the power one.
Well, that's cool.
And now here we are in 2020, starting 2022, 23, right? We started using that for our fiber project.
Wow. So great foresight.
Exactly.
They had no idea what they were doing it for.
Nope. Just thought, hey, maybe there's something they'll use it for.
I love that. That's awesome. Good job, future or previous pioneers, I guess, right?
Pioneering the future.
Pioneering the future. That's exactly it. Well, I love that. Okay, so going back to your time in city council and stuff, I'm guessing, so these are some of the positive things. I'm guessing, not every decision is an easy decision. I'm guessing there's some tough decisions at times. Can you think of any tough decisions or anything that's been, like, oh man, this one's a hard one, A or B, choice and stuff like that? I don't know. Anything stand out to you in that regard?
Yeah, well, there was one decision early on where an applicant was coming in to build a hotel. And we were aware of what the situation was, and it was what we call a permitted use.
Okay.
So there was nothing in the books per se, nothing in the code, anything that would allow us to deny it.
Sure.
But we knew that there was a lot of residents in that area that didn't want it.
Okay.
And that was a really tough situation because you understand some of the concerns the residents are bringing. But on the other hand, this applicant's coming in with a valid request, and we don't have any reason or justification to not approve it.
Sure.
I remember when that first vote came up, the applicant had an attorney that got kind of hot-headed.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how that impacted, but I know I went and made a vote to approve it.
Yeah.
And that vote was denied 4-1.
Okay.
And the other four someone else made a motion to deny it.
Yeah.
And that passed 4-1.
Okay.
That was the nay vote.
Sure.
To turn around only 2 weeks later to bring it back, because the city attorney said, hey, if you deny this, tomorrow morning we're
getting a lawsuit.
We're sitting in a lawsuit. And
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Okay.
And they said, hey, you can stop this really quickly by, well, 2 weeks later, I gave a similar motion, and that passed 5-0.
Okay.
So, and it's hard, right? Because there's a lot of emotion to the residents, and there's a lot of speculation of what they think is not going to be good about the project.
Yeah.
But I think when we can understand what the project is and talk about it, and then help give them assurances as to, hey, it's not as bad as, maybe some think it is.
Yeah.
But also, it's their right too, right? The applicant has rights as well as we as the residents have rights, and so it's a tough decision when you've got people pretty adamant that they don't want something in their backyard.
Which, that brings me to probably a thing that maybe a lot of people don't always understand about those approvals and different things like that. Because, sometimes people are like, oh man, why is the city approving all this, pick whatever, right? The hotel,
Yeah.
high density housing,
High
whatever,
density.
right? You know what I mean? And so people get mad, and it's like, well, I'm not sure people understand property rights and hey, sure, we'd all like Lehi to stay as is once we move in,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Once we move here, okay, now let's stop, right? But, and so I guess, I speak to that, I guess that, there's not as much, so then people may ask, well, then why do you even meet, to approve if it's automatically supposed to be approved and stuff like that, right? I mean, if you really have no choice, why are we even meeting to, discuss those things, right? I mean,
Why not just rubber stamp
why
it?
not just rubber stamp it, right?
Yep.
So I don't know, speak to maybe those things.
Well, and what's interesting, I'll tell you just a quick little story. My neighbor, after I announced in May, announced I was running for mayor.
Yeah.
My neighbor said, he wrote me and said, hey, so could you have everyone prior to 2000 that moved in, after 2000, move out?
Sure.
And I said, well, if I were to do that, I'd be the shortest term mayor in Lehi history, because I would have to move out myself.
Sure.
And so, but it kind of goes to this point, right? It's
Yep.
like, hey, could we return back to this point in time?
Yeah.
But how many of us, would be impacted by that if we were trying to do that, right?
Yes.
And imagine the chaos that would cause, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, with when we approve something, and it's one of those things that's what we call permitted.
Yeah.
It's because we've already, it's because a council, whether it's a council I've been on or one previous, but we've gone through and we've put tools in place that we use as guides. So one is like the general plan, and we say, here's where we believe the appropriate zones are for commercial zone, for
Sure.
residential, for high density, all these different things.
Yep.
And the thing is we can change that up until someone applies for a use in that zone in that area.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So once they apply, if we haven't changed it and it allows for a high density project,
Yeah.
well, now we're too late, right?
Yeah.
Because they've applied for something that's permitted.
Sure.
Up until that point, if there's no applications in place, we could, as a council, we could go through, and we tried to do this with residents' input, businesses' input, and we look at that general plan every 5 to 7 years to say, hey, is this still meeting the needs of Lehi,
Yeah.
right? Because you know what, as we grow and as you see where things are built, you may determine as a city council that, hey, we need an area for grocery stores or retail, because we've got a heavy amount of housing in this one area. And so we need to preserve an area that's attractive for the commercial retail to come in and serve that population, right?
Okay.
So there's flexibility in it. Once someone applies for something, then they get vested in that right.
Sure.
And so that's when it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So to say, like, instead of, to the question, why not just rubber stamp it, why do we meet? Well,
Yeah.
we meet because if you're elected and sit on the city council, it's a legislative body, and you create the laws, you can edit the laws, you can remove the laws. I mean, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
if you can get support from at least two or other council members.
Sure, sure.
But that's why this office is such an important one to have to look at who you're electing, because you're the legislative branch for the city, and so so it's you can influence change a lot that way or whatnot, because it's and so anyway, so that's why we show up.
Sure.
Because up until the moment something's applied for or whatnot, or then you have that discretion to make changes.
Sure.
And such that can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Sure. That makes sense. That makes sense. No, I appreciate that. I guess kind of going into that, what lessons have you learned about local government and how it best serves its residents? As far as, when do you see local government at its best with residents, I guess?
So for me, and some of the times I've enjoyed most is it's when we're serving the public for the services that we provide. It's the day-to-day services and things like that.
Sure.
And one of the things I really enjoy about Lehi City is the staff.
Mm-hmm.
They work really hard to not just show up at 8 o'clock and leave at 5 and do their job.
Sure.
But they try to be very personable. And what I want to do as mayor is increase that level of, I guess some would call it customer service. But one of the things about Lehi and that small community kind of feel, right, is that when we as a city are coming to you to help you with an issue,
Mm-hmm.
that we're approaching you as if you're like a neighbor or
Sure.
family kind of thing. Right?
Sure.
And we may not be able to help in every, like I've had a neighbor call me one night, and it was 10:30 after I got out of city council meeting,
Mm-hmm.
that I could call him back, and I was kind of like, oh, should I call him? But I did.
Sure.
And he had water leaking into his basement, and he had it for over a month. And
Wow.
he'd been working with the city, and the city had taken some action, but it didn't fix it. And he was kind of left like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to dig up my whole front yard? How do I find what
Sure.
And so I worked with staff and him, and in 3 days, we're able to just help him understand that, hey, what it is your house settled, and the pipe that your culinary water comes in underneath your foundation, and it just crinked it. And so it's,
So it's leaking. Sure.
And so the thing is everyone was doing their job and doing it well, but it's going one step further that, hey, if we could have just helped him understand, he wasn't looking for the city to fix it.
Sure. Sure.
He wasn't, but he was looking for, can you help guide me as to what the problem is, so I don't dig up my whole front yard, I don't do.
If I don't have to. Yeah.
And if that's where I know we have the ability to step up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And just add that one little bit more that can help someone a little quicker.
Sure.
Because, and to get the issue resolved. But in something he'd been working and stressing over for over a month, I was able to, in 3 or 4 days, connect with staff and him and get someone over there, and then finally just realize, oh, you know what, this is the issue. And they helped him identify what he needed to fix it and all that stuff. And in a day, he got it all fixed and the leak stopped. So.
I love that. So, making government more approachable, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like where, hey, like you're not just some entity, that's like, oh, I don't know, we have to go through a bureaucratic mess to get help. You're just saying, hey, no, I mean, I know you, and obviously this guy knows you personally, but you're trying to make that for everyone, I guess, kind of thing, where they can get the help they need.
And to your point about being approachable, I want to create more or clearer ways of how you reach out to the city. So if you're having an issue with the fiber installation or with these new pressure irrigation meters that are being installed, right?
Sure.
I've talked to people about, well, hey, they haven't come back and put grass in, they haven't done this or that. And
Sure.
there's things I've learned that, we needed to better negotiate a contract, or we needed to do this or that. So I want us as a city, I think we do a fantastic job, but I think if we look at the services that we provide and we put ourselves more in the residents' frame of mind, and then look at how do we address that issue, I think then we become more approachable. And if we help people to say, hey, here are the clear ways to get a hold of us so that we can try to get to your issue as quickly as we can, then I think that helps as well too.
I love that. I mean, especially because, not everybody knows you, right, personally, right? I mean, you only have your, network of people, but so somebody that has no connections per se, you want them to be able to still have the same level of experience, I guess, right? So,
and I like if they were to call me, whether they knew me or not, obviously I'm not the one that can go over and fix the issue directly.
Correct.
But I want them to have the same experience, whether they knew a council member or they called the council member or not, right? That when they call and reach out to the city's going to help them, whether it's a council member making initial contact or it's the resident themselves. Right?
Sure.
But I want to foster that from the mayor level through the city council, through staff, and just really emphasize that, hey, we do really good. Let's take it a step further and do this. And
Sure.
I think it would really help. I think it would help that feeling across the city that, hey, Lehi City is really responsive and approachable. And
Sure.
they care about us as the residents that we all are.
Sure. Love that. I love that. So let's talk about, kind of the future thing, right? So growth and vision, for Lehi. Lehi's population is projected to double when you first arrived, right? So how do you think that growth has, changed the city over this, period of time and stuff?
Well, it's a great question. It's interesting because the growth of the city, it's obviously had an impact.
Yeah.
But if you look at our master planning, our transportation plans, our water plans, our traffic plan, all these different plans that make up what we call the general plan.
Yeah.
The city, I think, has been built out really well for what we project the population to be for Lehi.
Sure.
The variable that we have really not a lot of control over are our sister cities to the west or to the east, or those that have to use Lehi to get to I-15 or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And so that easily makes it look like, oh, Lehi didn't plan well. Well, we planned for what we're responsible for.
Sure.
We're working with the state and regional partners to help with the issues that are regional issues.
Yeah.
But one thing is it takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the amount of money it takes to fund, the I-15 widening project was $500 million.
Yeah.
And that was 4 miles worth of freeway.
Yeah.
But $500 million. And the state just doesn't, turn over $500 million.
Sure.
And say, here you go, right?
Sure.
And we don't have $500 million. And so it's the growth, I think it's been good in the sense that people are able to come to Lehi that have wanted to come to Lehi. We do struggle with the affordability part of Lehi right now.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's, the market. How I'm not one that feels inclined to get very involved in trying to manipulate the market.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I feel like we have to kind of have an honest discussion about what does attainability mean in Lehi as far as housing, or what does it mean to have good traffic in Lehi? What does it mean to have the services in Lehi that we need to have, and then work together to identify that and to have an honest discussion as to, well, here's what we have, and here's where we're at, and a lot of what, like you alluded to earlier, I mean, I look at the 18 years I've lived here in Lehi, and a lot of what we see has come in those 18 years.
Totally has, yeah.
I mean, you had IM Flash and you had Cabela's here when I moved here in 2007.
Yeah.
You had Traverse Mountain being started to be developed, But one of the things I was involved with the council is bringing that density down from 9,000 units to about 5,600 units or so.
Yeah.
I mean, we took out 4,000 some units out of that community. And we took a lot of high density out of the canyons.
Okay.
Because as we looked at that and thought, geez, could you imagine having apartments and townhomes clear up in those canyons?
Yeah.
All that high density, it has to come down through all those, just not very many roads, and the congestion that would cause. And so we worked with the developers, and we were able to get that moved out of the canyons along SR 92 where it made more sense.
Okay.
But reduce the number of units going in there total by almost 4,000. And to me, that was a big deal. I can't imagine what Traverse Mountain would be like if it was building towards 9,000 units instead of the 5,800 or whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's a lot more cars, right?
Yeah, that's
a lot more cars, a lot more people there.
Yeah.
So, what other challenges do you see obviously with us growing and stuff like that, which, it's a good thing that, I mean, I want my kids to live here, I want but so tell me some of the other challenges that are coming with that you see.
Yeah, so I think one of them that maybe we don't talk enough about is the recreation and open space.
Okay.
One of the things that has created a challenge, in my opinion, for the city is a developer will come in and they will build a development and they'll dedicate, acres of land to be a park, right? Mm-hmm. And in the past, it would be, okay, well, you'll dedicate that land to the city. The city will take the impact fees, the park impact fees from that development, and we'll build a park. Well, those impact fees may be a total of, $1 million, $1.5 million, but a park costs $3 to $5 million. So
sure.
there's not enough there to build a park.
Yeah.
And so the city has done tremendous to build out these parks and find ways to get them done. But we still have a kind of a list of parks to still get done.
Sure.
But I want to be able to change that, where if a development comes in and that developer has land to dedicate for open space, mm-hmm. they've got to develop that open space before they deed it over to the city.
Okay.
Because we've got regional parks, we've got the Legacy Center, we've got things like that's where those park impact fees, I think, really need to go, mm-hmm. And have the best bang for the buck for the residents as a whole.
Sure.
For programmable type events, your football, your baseball, things that,
sure,
the recreational programs that we offer.
Yeah.
Upgrading and maintaining the outdoor pool, the Legacy Center, maybe adding on to it, things like that. I'd like to get us to where hopefully more of the impact fees and our park tax funds are going towards those things. And these neighborhood type parks are being more funded by the actual development.
Okay.
And not having to be done by the city.
Yeah.
And because one of the other challenges that we have is we have a lot of acreage and open space, but then you got to have someone to maintain it.
Sure.
And that's another part where we really struggle right now, is having the staff to maintain everything. And so we need to look at that a little differently and how we approach that, so that we can, if we're going to have all this open space, it doesn't do any good to not be able to maintain it. And
sure.
It's not useful.
Yeah.
And as you know, right, or we all know, if you don't maintain something very well, it costs more to get it
back into shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than if we can just maintain it. So I want to really figure out how we can maintain that which we have, and how do we fund some of these parks that take a lot up front, but
sure.
get them done a little differently so that
sure.
they come on.
Because is there a shortage of fields for different youth activities and different things like that?
Yeah, so we're told, and we've heard loud and clear, the baseball fields are in shortage. Now pickleball is really picking up.
It has, yeah. We need some more of those, I guess, right?
Yeah, and the thing is just south of me, and I know it's in Saratoga Springs, but yeah. I think the largest indoor pickleball complex was just built.
Okay.
And I know I believe it's in the state of Utah, but I believe it's a regional thing too. But
oh, wow.
There's a lot of indoor courts, and so in some of those things, I think that we can really work with the private sector and get some of those things built. But then things like baseball fields, those are things that we can still make partnerships and things, but it takes a lot to build it, right? A baseball field, I think, is anywhere from $3 million to build.
Wow.
And so we're trying to, Rhodes Mellor down south on 1700 West and Pioneer, that ideally will have 6, I believe, full-size baseball fields.
Wow.
But if you're looking at $3 to $5 million a piece,
that adds up.
Yeah, it adds up. Plus, then you've got the rest of the park you got to build out. Right?
Sure.
So that's one area I'd really like to work with and see if we can improve that, because we do have a lot of great places here in Lehi. I love going to Wines Park.
Yeah.
I love the new family park. The sports park's over by my house, and I know that's heavily used for programmed activities and things like that.
Sure.
But we have a lot of kids that like to participate, and a lot of kids outside of Lehi that like to participate too. So. Yeah.
Do you still get a lot of people coming here from, because I know Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain don't yet have like a legacy center, right? And so I think a lot of them still come to ours,
they do. Yep.
Right? And so I guess, I don't know if they have plans to build one, eventually and stuff.
Eagle Mountain does have plans to build one. I know Saratoga, they've tried to put it on the ballot and things, and it didn't pass.
Okay.
But as we look at this new school district that's been created, and the bonding needed, when you start putting, a few years ago, when you have a school bond on the ballot, and then you have a legacy center type thing on the ballot, recreation center, those things, when you start to look at it as a resident on a ballot, you're like, wow, that's tax dollars up there, tax dollars up there.
Sure.
And so it's like, it feels really heavy, right? So
Sure.
that's when obviously a lot of people prioritize, and and some of those things, the recreational things, just kind of
get pushed off to the
pushed out,
yeah, sure, that makes sense.
So it's tough. And there's some that have asked me during this campaign about, is it really the city's responsibility to build recreational facilities for us? Why just have the private sector do it? And it's an interesting discussion to have. I think that there's some value to the city doing it. I think that, not all of it, but to the degree that we're doing right now, I think that there's a value where people can participate, and there's some things that I just don't think the private sector would do, and the cost of it would be a lot more. And so I want to have those discussions, though, and I want people to feel like they're being heard.
Sure.
And I also want us to understand that, hey, we may not all get 100% of what we think is the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
but man, if we're working together and we're going, majority in the direction that we all can get behind, I think there's a lot more strength in that than trying to argue over the bits and pieces that we're not agreeing on.
Sure.
And seeing it and using that as, well, we're not moving forward, or we're not doing well kind of attitude.
Love that. So, talking about, obviously, you run for mayor and different things like that. Why do you want to run for mayor? What's the reasoning before that?
I guess pretty much 4 years ago, my wife and I, we knew that was my last campaign for city council.
Okay.
If I won, which I did, it'd be my third term. I'm in my 12th year,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the 2 years prior to that. I was on our school community council, like I said earlier, on 2 different schools,
Mm-hmm.
from the time that my oldest daughter, who's 20 now, was in kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
to the time that my youngest son, who's 13, graduated out of 6th grade.
Wow.
So I think it's 14 years or so. I was on the school community council every year for 14 years while doing this, and I was doing other things, whether it was in our precinct type thing, or neighborhood, or different boards that I've served on for the city.
Sure.
In my capacity as city council member. So we just were like, hey, this is, I think we've put, as a family, I think we've put our time in.
Yeah.
And we've done what we feel like that I can do.
Yeah.
But I had that desire to just, hey, if I could serve as mayor for one term, and what I want to do is, it's not that this hasn't been a focus of previous mayors, but I feel like I have a unique sense about community and service to the one, and hearing the one's voice and responding to that person. And I just felt like that was something, hey, if I could get the opportunity to serve as mayor, that's something I'd really like to focus on. Because it's easy to say, hey, well, transportation, I'm going to work on fixing transportation. I'm going to work on fixing these issues that we all know are the hot topic issues.
Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, it's like I know who the experts are that have the solutions. I know what solutions are in place. I know which ones we're trying to work on.
Yeah.
And I will be involved in that. But we know those things. And to me, it's like, if you want to really understand who I am and what my vision is for the city, I want us to be a stronger community, and that community everybody talks about that they moved here for. Right?
Yeah.
And the community, as we talked about earlier, that the pioneer spirit that was here in Lehi for centuries, right?
Yeah.
Or over a century, well over a century. I want people to feel like, hey, we are a community. We may not all see everything the same way, but you know what? We can treat each other with respect. We can express our voice and be heard, and know that it was valued, and then we're working together to continue to pioneer Lehi's future, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to bring, and I want to bring that with our staff and how we interact. I want to bring that to the council. I want them to feel like they're engaged, and that we're all participating in this process called, managing Lehi City or governing Lehi City. And I want to bring it to the residents, and I also want to bring it to the businesses. One of the things we get criticized about are these large developments, retail developments or whatnot that come in. They might ask for an incentive. Some of them have got them, some of them haven't.
Sure.
But what about the small, medium-sized businesses? None of them come in because it doesn't seem like they get to come in and say, hey, can you help us, right?
Sure.
So in talking to some business owners and things like that, I want to find ways through, whether it's a committee or what, of business owners, or through the chambers of commerce here in the regional area, what can we do to help small and medium business owners? How can we help someone that wants to do a startup? How can we do those kinds of things? Because there's a tremendous entrepreneurial
spirit
here in Lehi.
Yeah.
I mean, there really is. I'm amazed at how many business owners we have here in Lehi.
Sure.
And so I want to take what doesn't seem to be the most obvious issue, or the issue that seems to be up at the top, but I think is still vital to us as a community, and bring those issues to the surface, because we're going to work on those other issues. We are working on them.
Of course.
It's hard to see it sometimes because the progress is not as fast as some think it needs to be.
Sure.
But we're going to address them. But let's also remember who we are as Lehi.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah, and I guess it does take an active effort to continue to make Lehi small as it grows,
exactly.
Right? I mean, because, if you're trying to maintain that community feel that we love, and, that I think that Lehi actually does, I think, better than most cities as far as maintaining that community feel, even though we're quite large as far as cities go. And I like that vision, right? As you're trying to, we want to continue to do that, I guess, right?
Yeah, and you look at our community events group. I've gone to a couple of the concerts in Arts in the Park, Wines Park.
Yeah.
I've tried to get a little bit more out to the different plays and things like that.
Sure.
I mean, you go to some of these plays, whether it's Lehi Arts Center or it's our high school students or different productions and stuff. It is amazing the talent that we have here in Lehi, from youth to adults.
Sure.
I mean, it is amazing.
Yeah.
And then you look at, I love these community events, the concerts and the different things that we try to bring in, because like you said, that takes something that feels very large, but when you're there, like when we have Roundup Week, I feel like that week is one of the best weeks where we feel like a small community.
Yeah.
And when you walk through Wines Park, you're going to different booths, you're attending the rodeo, you're doing all these different activities.
Yeah.
You don't see Lehi as it's just a city. You see it as a community.
Yeah.
And I want to foster more of that.
Good. I love that. Speak to me about, obviously sometimes in politics that can be not nice, maybe that's the best way. But tell me how it's been with the candidates you have right now. Obviously, a lot of them, right? I mean, and stuff. But tell me how that's going, I guess.
Yeah. So for the most part, it's going pretty well. There's been a few instances where, especially as the incumbents, there's some targeting, I guess, that is done that is not. To me, I don't appreciate.
Sure.
And it's done behind the scenes more so than it is out on the, but it's more the effort to try to catch you or to make you feel like, hey, you really stink. You shouldn't be running. You should just out.
Sure.
Yeah, and so that makes it really hard at times to be like, why am I putting myself in the ring again, right?
Sure.
But then I look at my commitment and what I'm about, and that always supersedes anything that someone may do. I think the most part is that I understand that in my responsibility as a city council member, I may not have made the decision. I know I've made decisions not everybody agrees with.
Of course.
There's probably some decisions, if I could go back, I'd probably either tried to make the decision a little different or maybe not vote the way that I voted, right? But the past is the past. And the thing is everyone's going to do that at some point.
Yeah.
And you're going to have those moments where you're like, hey, you participated in this, you thought this was the right way, but then you look back and you're like, ugh, maybe I could have done that different, right? For example, on 5th, I think it's on 5th West and Pioneer Crossing, or it's 11th. Anyway, there's a building, beautiful business, wonderful business, building's beautiful and everything.
Yeah.
But I did not realize how close it was to the residents' backyards.
Okay.
And it meets all the setbacks, it meets all the criteria, and it's one of those, it was permitted.
Sure.
But man, you look at how tall it is, and you look at those residents, and you look at kind of the view that was gone.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, I wish I could have seen that a little better, right? I wish
Sure.
I could have acted on that a little differently or whatnot.
Sure.
I don't know if anything could have changed.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the fact that, hey, that's one that I wish I was a little bit, I had a different awareness of, right?
Sure.
But most of all, most of the candidates, I've had an opportunity to meet most of them.
Yeah.
And I think they're great. And one thing that I love about most of the candidates is they have that same sincere desire to just serve.
Yeah.
And they're willing to go out and try to find solutions, and they're willing to go out and talk, not just to the residents, but to the people that actually, the agencies or the people, the decision makers and things, and really try to work with them and connect with them and come up with the best solutions and things like that. So,
is that maybe what makes politics locally different than national? I mean, I think we group politics together as one big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it feels, it feels like local politics is different than, even state or national politics. I don't know. It's just my opinion.
I agree. It should be, and it should always, in my opinion, I want local politics to stay nonpartisan.
Okay.
And, I appreciate political parties wanting to have a voice.
Sure.
But the thing is if you start to introduce our party politics into nonpartisan elections, even if you're not trying to say, hey, they don't have to follow a certain platform, they're not having to do this or that, there's still an expectation that, hey, if you're endorsed by a political party, you're meeting certain criteria of that political party. And so I think it becomes harder as a candidate to really display yourself as you. Sure. Because now if you're endorsed by that political party, or if you went for it, I think there's some allegiance there that you feel that you have to show that, hey, I am that party, instead of I'm Chris, or I'm whoever the person is, right? Yeah. The city, in my opinion, the last thing we need is to become more divisive in the sense of bringing partisan politics into it. Mm-hmm. Our own opinions and our own way of looking at things is enough to bring diversity into how we make decisions. Things, in my opinion, right? Sure. We don't need to bring other influences in, because the way we do that is you go out and talk to those residents. Go out or have them. Let's come in and talk at city council meetings, or we go out as elected officials and talk with them. That's how we get that input with that perspective that they may have that may be more partisan, but to bring partisan into it deliberately, like this year that they've tried to do, I think it will drive that really sacred, really nice, nonpartisan local feel away from local politics. Sure.
Which again, I guess goes back to what you're trying to keep the city, you want to keep it, like that community feel, right?
The last thing we need to do is I've been asked over the years too, is, hey, let's break the city up into districts or whatnot, right? I'm like, no. And I'll be honest with you, Ryan, part of it's selfish. Every election I've ran, I've had to run citywide. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm like, if I have to do it, I think everybody else should have to do it. Have the same experience, right? Yeah. But if you start to split it into districts, well, then it's like, you just serve this one part of Lehi City. Sure. And they just, and it creates another divide, or potential divide. Sure. Right? And I think that's what partisan politics does too. It introduces another divide that doesn't need to be there. Sure. We have it, but we want to hear from everyone, not just people that we think agree with us on that political platform. Sure. No, I love that. I mean, that's what we want to lift everyone in Lehi, right? Yeah. And so, and even, like you mentioned, the other cities around us too. I mean, I think you guys are doing things with those sister cities to like, hey, all right, we got some problems together. Let's try to fix these together, as opposed to just, it's only, I'm looking out for my interest, kind of thing, right? So I think that's what makes things better, is when we, all right, let's come together. Yeah. And I've always been one that, when there's absolute facts that you can't move away from, let's identify the facts, and let's just all be adults and say, hey, we have to agree on the fact. The facts are what the facts are. Yeah. So what's the current situation of a certain road, or the current situation of a certain let's agree on the facts, and at least create that foundation, that baseline that we're working off of, right? Because if that baseline is 10 different perspectives, well, then you don't really have anywhere to start from, because everyone's trying to get their perspective to be that baseline. Sure. Does that make sense? Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And so when it comes to our sister cities, right, there's no doubt that traffic or residents from Saratoga, Eagle Mountain create impact for those in Lehi.
Of course.
And then you have us in Lehi that, you know what? Yeah, there's retail in Saratoga, and a lot of us on the west side go to Saratoga for our retail, right? It's a fact. Now, there may be disagreement as to why that is or why that shouldn't have been that way. Okay, that's a good discussion to have, but the reality is it's there, and so what do we do going forward, right?
Yeah.
And if we're trying to design traffic solutions where Lehi takes their portion of a road and designs it one way, Saratoga takes their portion that connects to it and designs it their way, but we find out it's a 5-lane road that goes into a 3-lane road, or vice versa, you know, well, then you're just creating more problems.
Correct.
Right? So
Yeah.
let's work together and identify what the facts are and then work off those. And there is some common good that we as as a region can accomplish as well. And we shouldn't look at it as a Lehi, Saratoga, or Eagle Mountain, or American Fork problem. It's a regional issue that we need to work on together.
Sure. No, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, anything, this has been very good to talk, anything we haven't covered that you've kind of like, hey, I wanted to hit on this or that or whatever, you know?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity. You know, I was born here in Utah.
Yeah.
And my wife, we obviously didn't meet until, I think we're both 29.
Okay.
But we're both born in the same hospital, 3 weeks apart. But we didn't know about each other until we were 29 years old.
Sure.
So as I realized, I grew up in Arizona and Colorado between 5 months old and 20-some years old.
Sure.
And I never thought, when I moved to Michigan, I never thought I would live anywhere longer than I did in Colorado or Arizona. That kind of combined. And but here I am in Utah, and I've been here, and I realized, I really am a native of Utah because I was born here.
Sure.
I just left, and it took 29 years or so, or whatever, or a little bit to come back.
Yeah.
But this is where my family, this is where their roots are at, between Pocatello, Idaho, and here in Utah. My parents, they moved here about 2-3 years after I did. My mom had cancer, and the hospital in the Cancer Institute they're working with in Denver said, there's this place in Utah called Huntsman that if anyone's available to help you, it's going to be them. We're kind of at our limits. And so she passed away shortly, about a year after they moved here.
Sorry.
But I started to see my family, I had siblings from California to Pennsylvania, and how everyone seemed to move west. And, now we're Colorado, Utah, Idaho, and California, and Oregon. But my wife's family, all of them live here. And my dad, we had him here in an assisted living facility on 5th West. He passed away last Thanksgiving. But now my mother-in-law lives here. Okay. And so to see how, as we've been here in Lehi, and to see our families kind of gravitate somewhat closer to Utah and to here, and to see all the friends that we've made and people that we consider to be family, the community that we've helped to be a part of, that's what we love about being here in Lehi.
Sure.
Is that so many good people that want to foster that community spirit that Lehi was built on.
Yeah.
And so even if I'm not elected as mayor, I see myself and my family still working towards fostering that and doing things in Lehi, because Lehi has been really good for us.
Yeah.
It's our home. It's we moved once or twice since we've lived here, from Traverse Mountain to the west, and then we moved from that house, but we stayed in Jordan Willows. We were able to upsize a little bit, and we're in our forever home.
Awesome.
And this is where we plan to be, and we hope our kids, will be able to move out and get their own home at some point. But yeah, we just really enjoy Lehi and love to continue to give back.
Well, I love your comment there with, whether you're elected or not. I mean, because the reality is most of us probably don't run for office, right? But we love this community also, right? And so we want to help, build it. But hey, not all of us want to have that public light,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
That public spotlight there.
Yep.
And frankly, there's only so many spots anyhow, right?
Exactly.
But I like that general attitude of, hey, I want to help, make this still more of a community, right? I mean, because that's what we're trying to do, is make this a great place to live, right?
And my little, I guess, motto or whatever for my campaign is, I've got you. And that isn't to mean that I've got you and I'm going to fix every one of your problems or whatever, or instill all your solutions and things like that. The thing is what I mean by that is that your voice, I understand everyone's voice in the city is as important as whether an elected official's voice or some other person that you may think, well, their voice has got to be louder. No, all of our voices are equal.
Sure.
And that's, I just want people to feel like they live in that great community.
Yeah.
Despite whether everything is the way that, perfect or utopia, whatever.
Sure.
That you matter, that you're a part of this, and that you're seen as that, having that value as a resident, as a business owner,
sure,
as a member of this community, to have that voice and to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've really worked hard on, is trying to be better at listening. My wife said to me one time, listen to understand before speaking to be understood,
sure,
before being understood.
Yeah.
And I've really tried to work hard at doing that, to listen, to understand before me being understood by everybody else.
Sure.
So I realize that because of the position I've been elected to, that I've got a unique opportunity to have let's say a microphone in front of me to speak out and a little bit, to be heard in a different way.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything about that I'm any better or anything different.
Sure.
I still represent everyone, and I want to make sure everybody is
just taken care of. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you coming on and talking about all that you have done and all that you would like to do.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I
so
appreciate the opportunity.
I think this is a great place to live, and it's because of people like yourself that are putting themselves out there and trying to do the work. And again, I admire those. I like that Theodore Roosevelt quote where the ones in the ring, right? I admire the ones in the ring with blood and sweat and stuff like that. The people in the crowd may judge them and say, hey, you shouldn't have done that or shouldn't have this, but hey, at the end of the day, they're in the ring, they're fighting, they're doing it, right? And I my hat's off to really all of those that are already doing that kind of stuff, right? Because I think it's good. I mean, we need people like that there.
Well, just to finish on that, one of the favorite, what do you call that movie? The series, the Rocky series.
Sure. Yeah.
I've been watching those lately, and I grew up on Rocky.
Sure. Yeah.
But I love your analogy of in the ring. I might be in the ring.
Yep.
But you know what? Those outside of the ring are ones that are training, are helping support us, helping us to, learn how to, look for this or look for that.
Sure.
Hey, do you see this potential? If you do this way, do you see this potential problem that could come? And that's where I may be in the ring, but instead of us all trying to take a punch at me, let's work together to see how.
Yeah.
I may be in the ring, but that I don't want to be alone in the ring. I want to represent, and have the support too, and I'm willing to be transparent and open and honest, and just know that, and then understand that. I most of all, I want to be approachable.
Sure.
And that's what I think people find value in, is being approachable. And,
sure.
And when they understand that, one, they're being listened to,
mm-hmm.
they understand maybe what your process is to make a decision. They have respect for that, even if it's not exactly what they want.
Sure.
They can respect it because they felt listened to,
mm-hmm.
and they understand how you came to your conclusion.
Sure.
And I think you get respect for that, and respect is given for that as well. So.
Love that. No, we all have the same goal: make Lehi better, right?
That's right.
I mean, and so, let's work
find
together.
That other conduit that we can lay.
That's right.
And we may not know why we're doing it.
I love it.
We're going to do it, and someone 100 years from now is going to be like, "Man, we're sure glad that."
I'm so glad they did that.
They did that. Yep. That's all we're trying to do. Right?
I love that. That's a great analogy. So, okay, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on Roots and Branches of Lehi. I hope today's story helped you feel a little more connected to the people who make up our community. Remember, every person here has a unique story, and together, we're what makes Lehi feel like home. If you know someone who would be a great fit for this podcast, please fill out the form in the show notes so we can reach out and schedule an interview. We'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Work Harding Home Mortgage Team and Play Harding Nightly Vacation Rentals, for supporting this show and helping us bring our community closer together. Until next time, keep growing those roots and reaching out to your branches. Take care.